anyone who's willing to do entrepreneurship, it's not the easiest route by any means. So that you have the courage to jump in there, and you kind of are. I almost feel that jumping into you're jumping out of behind a tree and you're naked, and it's like you're Adam and Eve all over again. And but this time, like you realize you're naked, and you're like, oh my god, like oh my gosh, and you're like trying to figure it out, and you're freaked out, and it totally makes sense. But then eventually, they're like, oh, I need some clothes. Let me go get some leaves. Let me put them here. And like, oh, look, the apple. I guess I get to eat more apples. Like it's so. I feel that that's just part of the evolution of entrepreneurship. Today we're in Auckland, New Zealand, speaking with female millennial entrepreneur Annika Stalberg. Annika, thank you so much for taking the time to meet. It's really nice to meet you in New Zealand.
Yes.
Out of all places. So I know we were talking a little bit about your background, and I'm really interested in hearing your story. So I want to know how this seed of entrepreneurship came to be, how it was planted, watered, and looked upon, and so this little flower of entrepreneur in you grew and sprouted out.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's a real pleasure to be here and to be able to share my story. That's something that I'm becoming more passionate about as my journey goes on. So I'd say my story probably started when I was 16, 17. And I had this thing my entire life. I was like, right, I'm going to go and I'm going to go through school. I'm going to finish school. I'm going to go to university, and then I'm going to get a job in the public sector. I'm going to do my dad's job basically and travel the world and be a diplomat. Like really cool, because then I get to travel and I get to live. Yeah, I get to like have a really awesome life. But then what happened when I was about 16, 17 was my dad would come home every day from work complaining about how awful it was, how politicky everything was. And I mean, I'm sure it was actually not that bad, but it kind of is when you're 16 and you hear this the whole time, you kind of go, well, is this really what I want? Like, sure, I get to have this awesome life and I get to see all these different cultures, but do I want a job where I show up every day and I don't want to be there? And at the time I thought that I didn't have any other choice. I thought that my only option was to go this path, to go to uni and then go into some kind of office job, because anything that wasn't an office job was like manual labor or like really hard or just not really societally approved, but or maybe familiarly approved. My family might not have approved of that. So yeah, I kind of was stuck in this thought process of I have to be doing this. I have to go and do this path, and I don't really want to, but there's no other option.
Did your parents tell you this is sort of the traditional path and this is what you ought to do? Was there an expectation there, or were they generally open about what you want with your future?
Oh, I had to do something that would get me a good job later on, so that I would be financially secure and stable and be happy. That was definitely a huge part. One day I'd come up and be like, oh, I want to be a graphic designer. And like, oh, no, but there's all these graphic designers in India now that are like working for minimum wage, and you won't get a good job as a graphic designer. Okay, and also you're not creative. All right, fine then.
Oh.
And little things like this. So I'd come home with ideas and then they'd be shot down if they were not leading to future stability.
What were the ideal jobs for your parents?
For my father, definitely he wanted me to go down the public service path, be a diplomat and sort of almost become his boss later on. He thought that would be really awesome if I could if I could work my way up and potentially, if we were in the right place at the right time, if he happened to still be working, that I would be in a position to be his boss. That was like the ideal thing.
Yeah, well, that's kind of a compliment on its own, that your dad wants you to be his boss.
Yeah, no, it was. But like the tertiary education thing was like a huge thing. Like, you get your degree and then you can do anything. You can go like be a translator. You can go work in the Middle East. Like the Middle East was huge. I spent some time there as a kid. That was just this thing where if you go there, then you'll always have a job. And that was the really important thing.
The security.
The security.
The
Yeah.
security. So what happened? So
What happened? I met my first boyfriend at the time, and he was 24. So me 16, 17, him 24, and he was exploring all these different things, these different possibilities. So he was he was a lawyer and he was working corporate 9 to 9 and doing all these ridiculous hours.
not even 9 to 5, 9
Yeah.
to 9. And it's true. That's what happens in corporate America
Yeah.
as well.
And the same in corporate New Zealand. You push the long hours and you do what needs to be done, and that's the expectation. And again, like me seeing this at 16, 17, I was like, I don't want this. Like, damn, your life sucks. But one of the things that he read and a book that he gave me was Tim Ferriss's 4-Hour Workweek, which completely blew my mind. It was like this thing with all these people and all these possibilities of people doing stuff that is not your corporate 9 to 9, and that is living a good life, traveling, and doing things that you love.
Was there anything in the 4-Hour Week book that sort of comes to mind that was the breaking point? I mean,
yeah, so I think the thing for me in the 4-Hour Workweek was it was this book full of examples of people living the life that I wanted. When I thought about my dream life, I was able to travel, I was able to go and learn things, I was able to go and experience different things, and what I did was not the main decider of who I was. So it's not I'm a lawyer and therefore I work these hours and I have 4 weeks a year to do things that I actually want to be doing. It's people living their lives now. And I was like, that's what I want. And that's where that seed started, with the 4-Hour Workweek at 17 years old.
that's incredible.
Yeah.
That's awesome there. I mean, it took a lot of courage coming from that background that you just shared with your parents saying no, do the traditional, and your dad saying, I would like you to be my boss eventually, and then just turning it around on, different experiences, and then also this book that created a huge impact.
Yeah. I mean, it was the starting point. It was where the seed was planted, and it was like, oh, it is possible. And so then I did a whole bunch of reading from there, the podcast, so many books, and started having my own ideas. So even at sort of 17, 18, I was still finishing high school, but in the back of my mind, I started, keeping these journals with potential business ideas, and I'd go to the library and try to teach myself how to code for like 3 weeks or something, just because I knew it was going to be this really useful skill for when I have my own website. And yeah, so that's kind of where it started.
Yeah.
And then, should I tell you a bit more about what kind of happened from there?
Yeah, keep going.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear.
So it was a side thing, the entrepreneurship thing. It was like, that's kind of where I want to go, but I don't really know what it looks like yet, so I'd better just keep going on the normal, which meant deciding on a career path, which meant applying for university, and figuring out what I wanted to do with my life. So to all intents and purposes, and for anyone on the outside, I was heading along and so I enrolled in university in London, and I went there to study Arabic and to study law, in line with go to the you always. So I did that, and at the same time, I kept reading. I kept having these ideas, keeping these journals.
So the little seed was sprouting inside of you, even though you were mending to the tomatoes over there or something.
Yeah, I guess so, or at least I would.
Or the dates, because you were in the Middle East.
I had both gardens going, and then I was nurturing both gardens. I mean, secretly, I knew that the papaya and the mangoes was where I wanted to be, and the coconut and the tropical fruits, but at the same time look after the stable stuff like those and that look good.
Yeah. So what happened then? I mean, so you went to uni.
I went to uni and I was studying law and I was studying Arabic, and neither was really me. I got into law school and everyone was there in suits, and it was like, what? Why are you? And like they would surround the lecturer, and like it's a huge deal to be in law school, and I didn't get it. And then in my Arabic class and in the rest of the university, everyone was really hipster and really like alternative. And that wasn't really me either. So I was like, I'm not a corporate person. I'm not a hipster. There's this whole other online world of people doing really cool stuff. I think that's probably where I should be going. And I was getting into a lot of health coaching stuff. So I was reading all about nutrition and how to feed yourself. And somewhere, some point, I read an article about how to start your business. And a question that really sort of flicked everything for me was, what do you know more about than 80% of the people around? And for me, that was like, oh, all this reading that I've been doing about nutrition and stuff, I can help people with that. And so that led to my first actual entrepreneur job, so to speak, or my first stint at entrepreneurship that actually turned into anything. And yeah, so I did health coaching for a little while, which was quite fun. And somewhere along the line, I moved back to New Zealand. Things started off really well. So the first sort of February was amazing. I signed my first clients, and everything was going so amazing. And then I don't know, I must have had some kind of upper limit problem, some kind of block to success, where I was like, I want it, but I'm terrified of what happens if I get it, which I'm sure you can relate is totally normal.
Yeah, totally normal. Totally normal.
Success is not a straight line. You always see it's like, I'm at point A, I want to go to point B. You think you're going to get there like that, but no way you are. It's going to be this moment of, oh my God, this is amazing. And then, holy crap, this is so scary. And what am I doing? And there'll be a roadblock. I had a client get a refund, and that was like my big massive stop sign in my face that knocked me for a couple of months. At the time I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not a good coach. What am I doing? I'm like a fraud. Looking back on it now, it's silly. It was just that the client it wasn't the right fit. She wasn't the right person, that she didn't need my help right now. And yeah, to have that separation between who you are and what you do, and that a rejection of what you do by someone doesn't reject who you are as a person, is absolutely huge.